Greetings, providers, provider, my Adonai, everything I need. Greetings, so. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you right now? Making a pledge and finding your joy, notwithstanding GPS and our phones and our cars that lead us around, the city, the town, the street, the house where you are right now. Where are you? Where are you right now? Greetings. It's Sunday. Another Sunday has come, and this is the eighth of a series of 52 weeks of podcast. I have made a commitment, a pledge to come to you, to hold your hand, to talk with you, to invite you to call me, write me, to have conversation with me, with us, with our tribe about what it means to show up every day, to find your joy. I want to know what makes you happy. I want to know what makes you smile. I was wondering this week, especially with the solar eclipse and the glaring new moon, which took place on Wednesday, the very same day, that new moon. If you knew what made you happy, some people don't know. Some people think they know what it is that would make them happy. If someone just tried to make them happy, if someone cared if they were happy or not, some of us don't have a clue what would make us happy. And we know when we are not happy. And we know when we are sad or depressed or just going through the motions or wondering why we aren't as happy as other people seem to be. But back to the point today, where are you? Where are you? I wanted to talk with you about where you are. Where are you on the map? Before we had GPS, before there were maps and papers and stars, if we looked up into the sky, looked up into the sky, what did we see? Imagine, imagine what we might see, what we would see, what we would know would depend on where we were standing. It would depend on how our vision was and what we might be listening to and what we might be paying attention to on Wednesday, that day of the solar eclipse, that day of the new moon. I live in the Eastern Standard Time in Detroit, and I was both inside and outside. And I was looking for the sun, but the sun was mostly hiding behind the clouds. I knew it was still there, but I was looking and I had been cautioned not to look directly and not to look without some special glasses that would protect my eyes. But of course, I peeked and I knew where the sun would be about 1:30 or so because I had watched the sun every day. I can see it rise from my bedroom window, go over the house, and have learned. I've taught myself how to look at the sun and approximately tell you what time it is. I was thinking about getting a sundial, and my brother said I should buy one for myself. And I've looked, and I don't know if I should put it on the ground But I've been kind of thrilled with the idea that I could tell time just by watching, by making observations all the time, by checking it out and have the sun move. I kind of know the sun's not moving, but it seems like the sun is moving from side to side. Am I moving? Is the earth moving? Is it shifting? That elliptical space, that circling. But I could see the sun by watching it move from one side of the house, from the left to the right, and have felt rather reassured that whether I could see the sun or not, the sun was there. And it was still there. And I was reading about the fact that the moon is actually a lot smaller than the sun. I think somewhere I read it was 400 times smaller than the sun. But if it was positioned just right, if it was positioned just right, in just the right spot, it would completely cover your ability to see the sun. And depending upon where you were standing, everything would go dark because the light would be blocked from your view. And slowly, that darkness, the temperatures was also drop maybe as much as 20 to 30 degrees, and the animals and the plants and the trees and the water, all the things that normally would be more active at the right time, at the night time in the dark, would for maybe that 2 minutes or so that we had that solar eclipse, the time that it took for the moon to slide in between our view, you had to be someplace special. Someplace special, someplace special where you would see it from that perspective. And I cheated a little bit because I watched it on the television. I could pull up the live feed of the solar eclipse on my son. My son, I could actually see it on TV on my phone. I had the ability to look at it from different perspectives at the same time. And from where I was standing and where I was sitting, I could feel that something was different. I could feel that something had changed. And so on Wednesday, August the 12th, something was different when the new moon, where we set our intentions for what it is that we would like to see or be or to move forward, to be in a different space. And from my spot where I stood in the world, will you take a deep breath in with me now? Take a deep breath in, hold my hand. We are making a pledge together to find our joy. I was wondering if on that day, whether you knew it or not, that it was Wednesday or was a day, if that day was different for you in any way at all. Where were you physically? Where were you mentally? Where were you spiritually? Where were you emotionally? All the parts that come together, we often separate, but on that day, if you could bring all of those aspects of the one, the source, the provider that you are. Can you think back to that day when you were listening, listening to the sound of my voice or watching me, can you think back to where you were that day? Where are you? Where were you that day? Where are you now? Where were you in relationship to someone else, to something else? What does it feel like for you to be in relationship, to not necessarily recall all the details, but if you could recall the details or recall or feel or know what it feels like right now, how is it you were changed in relationship to someone that you loved, someone that you cared about, someone that cared about you and was dependent on you? How does that, how did that feel? What did it feel like? Did it bring you joy? Did it frighten you? Were you uncertain? Did you lean? Did you lean into it? And other people and other things and other beings might affect where you were at that time. And I was surprised. For a moment, I was lost. I was quite surprised that for me, it was after the darkness came, that all the light was gone, completely obscured. Slowly, slowly, I could feel the return of the light. Looking at the sun and the moon and the way that first it was the tiniest little bite, just a little nibble, and then the moon that had been obscuring the view slid away, just that disk slid away, and it was a return to the light after the darkness. And the darkness came, that I began to notice that it was the absence of the light, that being in the dark for even a short time, for that 2 minutes, watching it, because the view that I had outside my house, outside my window, was very different from what you were seeing on your phone or your television or your computer. That the light returned, the light returned to spaces that had once been dark, once been closed off to you. Were now different, seen differently and felt differently. And slowly the light was returning and returning. And how I saw things and how I felt things was somehow different. I had not anticipated that. I had not anticipated that at making a pledge and finding joy that I would be changed. Some of you will join with me because you would like someone to witness with you, witness with you, to be a holy listener to you, to talk with you, but mainly to listen to you about what it might be like to do something very different, to be in the dark, to be in the light, to be changed. Something you have never done before, something you have never even perhaps seen before, but you feel called. You feel called to give it a try. And in that calling forth, you call forth your tribe, you call forth who will be with you, who will accompany you on the journey, the part that's known, the part that's not known. but the longing, the compelling. I was thinking this week a lot, especially after setting intentions and knowing that I was coming up on the eighth podcast of the 52 that I wanted to do this year, this 365 days, that 52 weeks every Sunday. I wanted to commit to showing up to doing a podcast, that I was asking someone, being close to someone who had already done, already saw, already felt, already saw, already been there. What I thought I wanted was a spot that I wanted to negotiate. I wanted to be in a place where I could be with someone that would be willing to listen. Just listen to me with all of my questions, all of my fears, my confusion, or just my certainty that maybe what I heard or what I thought, I wanted to be able to trust in myself. And I wondered, how is it when we go to someone for information, when we go to someone else for additional ways of knowing things, that we often seek out people who really know nothing about that experience because they have not had the experience. The lesson was perhaps taught to them, but they haven't experienced it, but they feel quite confident to tell us about their experience. They happen to teach us, to warn us, perhaps even to be fearful, to watch out for things that they are not willing to share with us what it was that they learned and how they learned it and came to know something that was heretofore not known to them. They don't want to share that part, but in being an expert and being an authority, maybe even being a wise woman or a wise man, someone who is a keeper of wisdom, keeper of the judgment. It seemed to me that finding someone or looking for someone or recognizing someone that may have a pearl for us, who had already completed the trip, even just a portion of the trip, that they might have something to share. They might be a really good place to start. When I wanted to lose some weight, I was so suspicious of people who were always thin. If you were 100 pounds, how could you tell someone who was 300 pounds what they needed to do to be 100 pounds? But someone who had lost 100 pounds, or someone who had sustained an experience and been through something that I admired, something that I thought was amazing, would ask someone who did know how to drive to teach you to drive a car. Would you ask someone who did not drive to teach you to drive a car? Or would you want to watch someone? Would you learn from someone who could not drive how you didn't want to drive? I like to think about that. Would you get in a car with them behind the wheel? Would you go to an instructor that had all of the rules, had a book, but did not offer you an opportunity to sit in the car, did not offer you an opportunity to sit in the car even next to them? And maybe even the kind of care, the kind of car, maybe it has special pedals, just special pedals. I know I took a driving class when I wanted to learn how to drive, and the driving instructor, I didn't realize it at the time, but the driving instructor had some pedals on their side of the car. I was sitting behind the wheel, but they were also sitting there ready to protect me or to keep something terrible from happening. But they had special pedals. They could put the brakes on if I couldn't, or if I got confused. I remember at the time feeling some sense of relief and some sense maybe that it wasn't going to be that hard that I could take a risk that someone would be there with me. Maybe they would stop the car or accelerate the car or operate the wheel just in case I couldn't do it. But still, they were encouraging me. They allowed me to sit behind the driver's wheel. You wanted to do that because you respected them. They respected you. They respected your wishes and you relied on them because maybe they were going to give you a grade. Maybe they were going to give you a license. Some reason you gave them approval rights on what it was that in fact you were the one that were going to be doing it day after day because you had made a pledge that you wished to do it. Perhaps you thought that as long as you consulted the expert, as long as you would be absolved of any guilt that would happen if things did not go the way that you had hoped. There would be no guilt or there would be no shame because you had just merely followed the rules, the instructions, the directions that were given to you. Maybe didn't make sense, didn't feel quite right, but I first said we should do it that way. And you checked the YouTube video and you read the book. I thought maybe I would take class. I'd love to be a student. I think people who are educators love to be students first, and I would take a class about how to do a podcast and who was successful at doing a podcast and learn all there was to know about podcasting, about all the different ways that you could do a podcast. Or is the talking head? I'm the talking head because I'm talking to you. But there are people who have wonderful podcasts where they talk about a subject with someone that they think is interesting or knows more than they do, or they think, oh, if I talk to this person will make other people want to listen. Might make them want to talk to me, might make them help me get the word out. And so I took the course and I selected a teacher, someone that I admired, and I recognized a mentor, and I listened to all the YouTube videos. I'm one of those students that I do the reading ahead. I read. If they give me the instructions, I try to follow them. But I followed as long as best I could, and then we came up upon a listen, a listen. I heard it, I saw it, but mainly I kept hearing him say, for you, we suggest that you get started today. Whatever you have to do, get started today. Get started today. And we promise you, we're going to be along with you every step of the way. And we promise you this, that not only will we be there with you every step of the way, but we know that you will learn more by doing and making a pledge towards something that will bring you joy than you could ever learn. And that you will learn and that you will grow. And we're going to come back and say, how's it working for you? How's it working for you? So if I met someone that I thought was successful at podcasting and they just decided that you wanted to speak, to decide how someone might benefit from hearing your voice. And after hearing your voice, who's your audience? After hearing your voice, how might they be changed? How would they be transformed in your mind? Could you imagine who the person was you were talking to, how they might be changed after hearing your voice, and how willing were you as the podcaster to offer yourself, to be of service, to be light. Be light, be light, be light. How willing were you to be a podcaster, to offer yourself, to be of service to someone else? And if you weren't sure, you could get started. You could get started today, just today, right now. But that your goal would be, who is your audience? Give that some thought. Who do you wish to speak to? Who are you called to speak to? And what might they be coming to you for now? How about their encounter with you, hearing your voice, speaking to you? How might that change them and change you, change the podcaster? Perhaps and perhaps and perhaps, if you really gave it some thought, that the world would be better because the two of you met up, and that the world would be a better place. And one of the assignments that I found most helpful was to make a list. Make a list, if you haven't already, to listen to some podcasts. Listen closely to some podcasts, something that you would be willing to stop what you're doing or do it alone with someone, or maybe listen to a podcast while you're doing something else, doing dishes, driving, to begin to listen to podcasts. What were your favorite ones? What were the ones that you liked? What was it that you liked about them, that you didn't like about them, that you found, this is a little distracting, or I could listen to this all day. Maybe the content was good, but the voice was bad, or, I listen in my car. I can't really watch it like television. The music was kind of funky. It was too loud, the sound, but coming back to that podcast, it was on a rotation for you. Listen to it. Maybe you listened to it once and you liked it and you shared it, and maybe you even subscribed to it, and maybe there was a way that you could contribute to the listening and the transformation, and maybe the list that you made of the podcasts that you listened to that you thought were transformative would help you be better at providing that same service to someone else. When I found that I listened to certain podcasts, I listened to what I really enjoyed much more like what I recalled about what I liked about listening to the radio when I was young. I liked the idea that when the radio was on, I was able to select a station and be able to listen to a voice that was familiar, reassuring at first. The familiarity was familiar. And at first, I only listened to music at AM stations and FM stations, and the signal on the AM stations may be not quite as strong as the FM, but the music that I enjoyed, that I was being introduced, had already been selected and curated by the DJ, and that DJ had a rotation. And before you know it, I would be singing along and I would know the songs. And even if I didn't go out and buy the record, I knew that this DJ with this sound and the voice and the call letters, I would listen to it. And again, as a young person with very limited means to select what I wanted, what gave me joy, I really leaned into the radio. And when the call letters and the opening and the song came on at a particular time, it was the consistency that prompted me to the things that I knew that I could expect, but I didn't feel compelled to see them. Different than watching television. or looking at a photograph. I had some posters, not necessarily of people on the radio, but the visual and the auditory, listening, the sound of their voice and me singing along. I didn't feel compelled to see them. It was their voice and the consistency and the way in which they made me feel late at night when we were alone together. I didn't listen with anyone else. I did share a room with a sibling, but my radio listening was really my private time. And I was alone and I didn't need to have anyone with me to enjoy. It was the intimacy, the intimacy. And we have what many people today think of as a clock, an alarm, startles you, wakes you, changes you. But on this clock radio, instead of there being a buzzer, you could turn the clock on and set the alarm to come on to a particular person's voice. Either there was a radio program or later, there were discs that you could put in, and so you could control the sound that you heard. You could control the sound that you heard that would wake you up, that would bring you from sleep, that would bring you from dark into light. And having a clock radio was a big switch, and having the power to set it to a person's voice at a certain time. I would wake up to the radio and I could select the station where I knew what to expect, whether it was the weather or the news first or the music or a certain song that I would sing along with that got me hooked. And then there was the notion of what we know today as YouTube. Most of you will be watching me today on YouTube or listening, or perhaps some of you will read a transcript of what we talked about today. It didn't require me to watch the visual, but if I came to know someone by associating the face, the voice, the hair, the image, would that reinforce the voice that I heard in my head? If you sing to your little one, and every time they see your face, there is a connection, all the senses. I realized that the visual for me was not as compelling, but for some people, the visual was very important. Just like for some people who read a book, they're not into audiobooks, but sometimes there are words, there are content that are reinforced by all the senses, the smell, the touch, the place you're at. Where are you? What do you hear? Is the airplane? Where is home? Where is home? Where are you? Where do you feel at home? Where do you feel safe? Where you will flow and you will connect and you will be in relationship for the joy of it. Where does that happen? That may not have ever happened, but we're going to get to try that out because we are making that pledge to find our joy, to associate that person with seeing them, touching them, smelling them. If I could stop what I was doing and I needed to sit down and watch them versus listening with someone or listening alone or listening while I was doing another project, it was different. It was different. So when I made my first list of the podcast that I liked, largely it was the content that was important to me. If you will be listening for someone that allows you to be a provider, to be in relationship, wherever you are, whatever the space is, it is something that you will carry with you. But if you're in a location or a space where the relationship and the connection and the sound and the fundamental content is not there, you will be the first to know. And I and the members of your tribe will recognize you and reinforce that is extraordinary power and gift that will strengthen over time. The skill that I wanted to learn the craft of being a good podcaster, whatever that was. I wanted to be good at it, and I wanted the measure of success to be how I would feel and how it would be like to be in a relationship. I wanted to impart, to share the things that I learned because I had experienced them for myself, but at different perspectives. What I knew as a new nursing mom is different from what I knew as a midwife, is different from what I knew as a mentor, as a teacher, different what I knew as a grandma, different, but all the same. All of those aspects of who you are come to bear based on where you are today. Where are you? Where are you, dear one? What is your location? Where are you? Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and with me, hold my hand. I'm there with you. I'm longing to hear. I really am curious where you are. Connection, relationship, location, geography, experience, all of that, all of that, all of that is important. The podcasters, my teachers, my mentors, just encourage me to keep going, to know that you will learn something each time you do it, and you will get feedback, and that learning and that knowing should not only drive you, but that at certain points you might want to take a minute, sit back, take a breath, and say, now, how is that going? How is that going? How's it working for me? And if you set your goals to be immediate, or if you had unlimited funds, or you really weren't sure, then you would learn that along the way. You didn't really buy that. You needed more of, let's just say, I'm going to call a little instant gratification. What would be instant gratification for you? And what would make you say, you know what, today is not the day. I am not going to decide today, but I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to reconnect with my source, and I will connect with someone that has a tiny bit more experience than I do because they have been there before. And I think if I did that, if I granted myself that, I would know. I would recognize when to know, when to stop, when to go forward, and I would learn along the way, as well as you would learn along the way, to just see how this is working for you at this juncture. This 8th podcast, with just 44 more to go. I wanted to take some time and sit back and share with you, those of you who may have listened from the beginning, or maybe this is your first day, that this is a process, a fluid process, and that maybe 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 50 years from now, or maybe there's no one that's nursing a baby, that if you wanted to nurse your little one, you would be assured that it didn't die, that it was being held on to because of your desire, your longing, your connection, because that is what you wanted, and that it would benefit the both of you, that couple, and that there is a tribe, a space, a location where it all comes together, even if you cannot see it today. I promise you, I'm listening to Jackie today, and I wonder if, having been in a conversation with someone that I don't know the impact, I haven't met, but who has invited me in, they come to the door. You have been invited in to make a pledge to join with her, to join with me, to make a pledge to find our joy, that we decided we wanted to do something, to be someone in a particular place at a particular time within a particular context. Each of you are going to craft something that's going to look really different to somebody else. But for you, at that juncture, it worked for you. It may not have worked with the other four kids, but this one right here, this last one, or maybe there will only be one. And you waited a long time and it didn't seem possible. And then all of a sudden, there it was. There was the relationship, there was the situation, and you said, how could this happen to me? It's not possible. Well, not only is it possible that you called it for something that would be in keeping with all that was in around us in perfect balance, something that would promote sustainability, something that was within your power to provide and nurture. And it would be at home, where you would feel at home, where you were, would create home as a provider, as someone who nourishes, and the outcome would be, but that we would show up and we would be consistent. So I got really, really excited and rejuvenated, and it made me come to think about the fact that I was willing to follow someone, follow the leader, follow someone who had been somewhere where I said, I thought I wish I wanted to go, that I would learn along the way, that I wouldn't know all the details. I wouldn't have a prediction that everything would be fine, that there would be ups and downs, and maybe it wouldn't end the way that I had wanted. But that I knew I would realize that I was not the only one, and that I was never alone, and there was a special spot for me, people who felt led to walk this path with me, for whom part of their calling was to reach out to me, for me. And that where you are today, who you are, what this is that you're longing for, you have to have. It is something that you had to have for your little one. Your little one is just something that only you could provide, that liquid gold, that connection. For someone else to be in relationship, in an integral part, you would learn along the way. And that at some point, there would be a separation, a termination, but that you would be engaged. You would know when the weaning would begin, when it would take place, and that nothing ever separates in love. but that the connection would shift and that you would know, and that it was not your fear that would keep you away. It would be your desire to come to know all it was that you needed to know at exactly the right time, that you would join with each other and be together, and that separation would come and you would grow because you separated and you were providing something that you both did need. And at some point in the future, some point in the future, because you would have had a lot of experience of knowing where you are, you would win, you would separate, and you would leave one another, and you would follow. You would do some things together, but today is the day. Just look at where you are. Where are we? Where we look around, look around, look around, look around, look around. You make that observation. Do you know where you are? Doesn't have to be longitude and latitude, but do you know where you are? You know where you are. What makes you feel at home? What's willing to associate with people who might be willing? Are they willing to share with you what it was like? What was it that helped them feel at home when they were feeling not at home? What did they do? What made them joy? What made them happy? What if imagining that moment, that space, calling out for you, to you, would support you in all the spaces, support you in all the spaces that you would need. You wouldn't necessarily recognize them, but you would recognize that experience of support, and that each day, each cycle, each season, that coming around, that sun, that moon, the stars, the water, the air we breathe, we are all connected. Each day we would want to be keeping time, keeping it simple. Simple is not easy, but that we would give it a try. And that we would give it a try because we would learn our own ways of knowing, of memory making, of how we come to know something. And we are the provider. We have been provided for, and we are the provider. Provider. You have everything, everything you need. You are the spark of creativity. The spark of the divine lives within you right now. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Decide that right now, right now, right now, today, show up. Show up, show up, show out. Let your light shine brightly. The light is emerging from the place that was dark. It is emerging from the place that was dark, and the light is revealed to you, to them. Everyone around you can see it. Some people, it will scare them. They're not ready. But for others, they will be emboldened, and they'll want to protect this glow, this spark, this nurturing moment of life and light. They'll say, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen anything like that." Or the last time I saw that, you don't know who is watching you, who is affected by your journey. You just have no idea. But know, but know that someone wanted you to be here now. For some people, Their light shines better because they have been in the darkness and the light is revealed to them now and they are changed. And they are changed and they find out what it is that brings them joy because they have been in the dark so long. Whew. This is all they want is to bring light in, to feel safe. And if that is now how you're feeling right now, what would it take to have you be there with us to happen to what do you do? Who are you? Where are you now that you have gotten to that place and that you are never alone? Take a deep breath in with me. And on the eighth podcast, know that I am learning and I am growing and I am taking a step back. And if there is a digital platform, born digital, as we say in the archival world, born digital today, perhaps you will be listening at a later time, but time will bend and shift. And maybe you will use the tools of this platform in a way that we could not have imagined eons, centuries at another time, but we have shifted it, we have shape shifted it to work so that someone who is very far away, who hears your voice, who comes up on you, who sees you, that sees you at home, home in your body, home in connection, home in creation, home in nurturing, home in loving kindness, that see you and they, it's not just like, subscribe, and share. No, some people it's boiled down to like, subscribe, and share, and that algorithm brings you out to more people. But today, I'm so in love, so in touch with you, so grateful for you and forever change. Take a deep breath with me. Hold my hand. I'm holding your hand. Hold that little one's hand. Know that you make a pledge, that you find your joy, whatever it is, that pledge that the sun circles. And at the end of 365 days, it is only the beginning, but it is the completion of a cycle that you begin today. Each day you make a pledge, you find your joy, and you are where you are and what you see and what you hear and what brings you joy. I will see you. I will be with you next Sunday. I'm so grateful. So grateful, so grateful. You can write me at info@breastfeeding365.com. I'm listening, wholly listening closely for the sound of your voice. Write me a note, put it in your journal today. I would love to hear from you on this eighth podcast. Where are you? Where are you now? Where are you now? We know. Thank you, provider. Every word I speak, every fear and doubt, you are my provider. I hear you listening close. Thank you. See you next Sunday. Bye-bye.